right then. We get the hair straight and the glasses straight. Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for joining me today, Katie.
Sure.
Really nice to speak to you. It's Thursday morning with you, I guess. Pretty
It is.
early, or is it what, 9 o'clock?
No, it's not too bad.
Not
It's
too.
normal business hours. I didn't
Yeah.
have to get up at the crack of dawn. So.
Oh, that's good. That's good. And can you just tell us where you're actually based in the world?
Sure. I am in Canton, Ohio, in the US. And so that is, if you're familiar with Cleveland, I'm about an hour south of Cleveland, in that vicinity.
Yeah, okay. And you've lived there all your life, have you? Or
I have,
no.
except when I went to college and graduate school, and then I moved back. So,
Right. Okay, well that's nice. I've never been there myself. I've been over to the States many times, but never over to that part of the States. So,
yeah, it's probably not high on the tourist destination.
oh, yeah, I don't know. Maybe not. But anyway, would you like to tell us a bit about yourself? You're Katie Tolin, and you are focused on working in marketing and branding and business development and growth with accounting practices specifically. So I wondered if you could start with maybe telling us a bit about what your everyday is like. What do you do? What type of customers are you working with? And what sort of problems do you help them solve? Let's start there.
Yeah, so I would say my clients run the gamut, but I really focused on those ones that want to grow.
Right.
I think so many times, and I'm not sure if you hear that too when you talk to an accounting firm, they're like, oh, we want to grow. Great. And for whatever reason, it's always 10%. I don't know why, but everybody wants to grow by 10%.
Yeah.
And then you're like, how are you going to get there? And then they're kind of like, oh, I don't know. Like, it doesn't just happen. And so I really try to help them figure that out and really focus on specialties. So industry segments, service line segments, and then teach them how to build that, how to make sure with such limited time people have for marketing. I mean, these are full-time business owners, practitioners. How do you know you're spending your time doing the right things with the right people in the right place?
Right.
I really try to help them connect the dots. So, for example, most of my day today is going to be one-on-one coaching sessions.
Right.
So I'll be on the phone with a partner, and we'll be talking about, what we know in the marketplace, what we've learned, and what our next steps are to driving that top line revenue.
So are you saying you sort of like you chunk the business down to start with? Because I guess, as you say, when somebody says, yeah, we want to grow by 10, the magic 10%, that's all well and good, but there are lots of different ways of achieving that. So you chunk it down to look at where their main sort of revenue opportunities are, and then I guess work on a strategy to pick one. And I guess it's difficult to tackle everything all in one go. So you pick one and work on that. And when you say coaching, is it a lot about coaching for the actual growth strategy, or is it also on mindset around growth as well? Or is it
I think they go hand in hand. I think, I definitely try to help with the strategy, but you can't just talk the strategy without talking the mindset. And what I find most amazing is people think like marketing is magic. Right. Oh, if I hire somebody to help me, like it'll just come. Yeah. But in reality, it's a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
And so, kind of try to convince people that if you go put this effort in, you're going to be repaid. Not just in growth and what that means for your firm from a revenue perspective, but personal growth, rewarding growth, like all of that comes from doing this.
And what do you think the main kind of like busyness is around marketing? When you say a firm decides they want to grow, and then they think, okay, well, we need to get serious about our marketing, and then that takes effort and time. And what is it mostly that they need to kind of spend their time doing? Is it about articulating their vision, or is it about trying to figure out where they want to go, or is it on more kind of practical things like writing editorials, or like what is it that they spend their time doing when they get busy with marketing, really?
I think they want to start at that tactical level. Oh, right. I want to write some articles. I want to speak at an event. That's where they focus without stepping back to look at, is this even the right strategy to begin with?
Right.
And, I think what's interesting about myself is there's not a lot of me in the accounting industry, but I'm a data geek. You know what I mean? I'm a numbers person. I work with accountants who love numbers, and I'm right there with them.
Yeah.
And so I use numbers to help talk their language.
Right.
I go and I look at their revenue and I can show them how much revenue is coming from different areas and why if we focus on that. And then I look at their pipeline and see where the revenue is coming from and help kind of use that to help build the case for them to set that strategy. So they want to jump right down here into the tactics, like tell me what I need to do, or Katie, what can I pay for you to do for me that's going to be magic? And I try to kind of step back and say, let's look at, are we doing the right thing? And oh, by the way, I'm going to do this with data that you understand.
Yeah, no, well, that sounds like a really good way of going about it. Because number one, I agree, it's very easy to think that there's a magic solution out there in any shape or form. Even the accountants themselves, I think, can be looked upon as a magic solution to their customers. Like, oh, I just let the accountant deal with it, like the accountant can work the magic. But it's true, isn't it, in any expertise that I guess when you're working with a client, you need to work with them, collaborate with them. And it's important for them to realize that you can't do it for them, you'll do it with them, I guess. Do you find when you go into a practice that you are a part of maybe building up the culture there, or do you tend to go in and adopt or adapt to the culture that is already there? Is that part of your job at all?
So I think we change the culture by default. If I'm trying to change the mindset of people from a marketing perspective and what do they need to do, things are going to change. A lot of times I'll work with a firm and they don't have a business development pipeline. Who are your leads? And they scramble in their head to figure out who they met at the last golf outing that could be a lead. And you try to put structure behind that, as in, here's a lead, here's what it means if it's a qualified lead, here's how it moves through the sales process. Oh, and we're going to put it on a document and we're going to track it and we're going to see, how many we won and how many we lost and why. I think by default, putting that kind of structure in place in a firm, it changes the culture.
Right.
It gets people thinking like, this is important. One of the things that I was taught early on from a marketing perspective was, how does this contribute to the top line growth of the firm? And so when somebody will come to you with a marketing request or a marketing spend, I got in the habit and I taught my team to start saying, how does this contribute to the top line growth of the firm?
Yeah.
Well, what happened is when people can answer that question, they stopped coming to me. And because they knew, you know what I mean? And so it's kind of like, oh, this doesn't contribute to the top line growth of the firm. I shouldn't be doing it. And so by default, just some of this stuff I think naturally changes. It creates a more growth focused culture within an organization.
It might be building up your reputation, which I guess in the longer term could contribute to the top line growth of the firm, but it's not something you could really measure, I guess, in this firm.
Yeah, or, we get clients that will call us and say, hi, I'm on the board of such and such group. Would you sponsor this run, this event, this fill in the blank for us? And, and we say yes, not because it's going to help us drive revenue, but it's going to help solidify that relationship. And that's a good reason to spend as well.
Exactly. That's another important factor in all of this, isn't it? If your job is to increase the revenue by 10%, then that's one thing, and that's important, but it can't be at the expense of everything else, can it? So as you say, it's a balancing act, really. So I laughed once because I heard you say, and it really did make me laugh, because I think I used to think like this as well, that a lot of people can confuse, that's probably the right word, or consider branding as being making a logo. And that really made me laugh, because I thought, I've heard Katie explain it in much more sophisticated terms than that. So would you like to explain a bit what actually branding or marketing is, really, for those of us that are not so familiar?
Yeah, and I think this is hard, and I think I learned it the hard way too. When somebody's like, "Oh, we want to rebrand and we want a new logo," and I'm like, "Oh gosh, what a project!" But being the analytical mind that I am, I started with research. I did focus groups, I did surveys, and from that, you get a wealth of information that comes back to, why do people like you? Why do they trust you? Why do they spend money with you? And that's what gets to the heart of your brand. I don't care what your logo looks like. Your logo should visually represent, what that is that you hear. But, our brand is who we are. It's the promise we make to the marketplace by just being there. In this COVID-19 world that we're in, I do believe that level of trust is going to be even more important than ever before. And people will look for that from a brand. Is this somebody I can trust? And we need to be able to say yes.
And the pretty logo and all of that is nice. It makes you feel good, doesn't it, when your company looks good? But it's no use having that if you're you don't have the good relationships or the trust from your customers or the market. So it's a good point.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, it should be able to, visually look at it and be like, oh, I kind of get this.
Yeah.
But then you experience it, and that's the relationship. That's
Yeah.
what the brand is.
Is it easy for them to filter this down to all their employees? Like, is it easy for them to get everyone on board and singing the same hymn sheet, so that when they're out in the market, they are delivering this promise, that has kind of come from the brand or from the culture of the company? Or is it something they really have to work on as well, like making sure that everyone really understands what the firm stands for? Is that part of marketing?
Yeah, I think, yeah, you've got to start there. Like, first of all, you can't have a brand that's not who you are.
No.
So some of it is already there from your people. You know what I mean? It's a reflection of who you are. So, but you've got to reinforce that. And so if you can clearly define, here's who we are as a brand, and you reiterate that, and you work that into everything you do with your employees, they're going to deliver on your brand promise that you're making to the marketplace. So, you definitely have to work on it, and you've got to intertwine that brand into everything that you do, internally and externally. Part of the research we did, whenever I've done a branding, is I've looked at the employees. I've done employee focus groups. I haven't just made them external. I've given them the chance. I've done surveys that have been sent to every single employee in the firm that says, give us your perception of your brand. Like, this is your time to speak and be part of our future, take it or not.
Yeah.
And I think by involving them, then they start getting excited about it as well. It's not something that's being pushed down on them. They had to say.
Yeah, it could apply to any firm, really. Like, you're specializing on accounting firms, but the same ideas, I guess, translate across all branches and in all fields, I guess.
It is. I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, any company out there could be like, oh, here's our logo, like, make something pretty. But I would, it doesn't matter what profession you're in. It comes back to the same thing. Every company has that kind of brand. Think of those national brands that we have some level of trust for, or respect for, and those are the ones that are successful.
We've had feedback from customers as well that they love to see who we're talking to and who we work with, and the customers that we're working with, and how we think about things, because it helps them build trust. So I think the more kind of relevant and good exposure that you can get, the better, really, in this kind of world. Now, what makes the best kind of like project or customer for you? Is it when you go into a firm and they've made their decision that they want to grow, because that's your specialism, and they're geared up, and you start working with them, and they're motivated and maybe a bit unstructured, but they're keen to get going? Is that important? I mean, do you ever go into firms where they are not motivated and you need to do a lot of work with the partners, for example, where maybe there's one partner that wants to grow? How do you find the most successful projects or the least successful projects? What's important for you?
If you don't have a hunger to grow, it's not going to be successful. And if you're not willing to do the work. So I think that's what it is. So I would never probably work with a firm where I felt everyone didn't have that growth or didn't have that aptitude to work. I have worked with firms where there are, maybe 2 of 10. You know what I mean? If I work with 10 people, maybe 2 aren't great, or we're not sure about yet. Are they willing to be coached? Not everyone's coachable. Not everyone does well in those kind of relationships at all. And so you may find out that somebody you didn't think was coachable was actually amazing and took feedback and used it. Or you could have had your rock star out there who, pushes back on anything anybody says and fights with them about it because they're right, nobody else is. And so I think from the beginning, it's what's your appetite for growth. And then I think in there, are you willing to try different things? I'm not going to say everything I'm going to suggest is going to be a home run, but try it. Or let's talk through, where your concerns are and see if we can come up with something. Because bottom line is, doing the same thing that you've always done, it's not going to get you any further ahead. You have to try something new. We're going to fail forward. We're going to learn from our mistakes and try something else. But chances are you're not. You know what I mean? And it's going to be like, okay, well, maybe we do it again, but we do it a little bit differently to be even more successful next time.
Yeah, I love your enthusiasm. But how do you actually, like you say, you're a data geek and you like to work with the numbers and you like to measure, the growth and the success. But do you use tools to do that? Or, I mean, how do you actually track all of this through a system so that you know what's happening and if they're getting better?
I think it depends on the sophistication of the firm and what tools they have in place, because they house the data.
Right.
It's not me, so I've got to be able to get it from them. You know, I have done this in Excel. I have done this very hard, where you've given me very specific line items,
Right.
client spends and stuff like that, and I've sliced and diced it in Excel for them.
Mm.
Some firms I work with have like a Power BI, have a
Yeah.
Tableau,
Yeah.
have one of those solutions in place, which are great.
Yeah.
We have this. For one firm that I actually worked at before, we built an access database that I could drop the data in, hit a couple queries, spit the data out. So
Different way.
large tools if you have them, but if you're not sophisticated, you can do wonders in Excel.
Do you find that there's a common recurring kind of like, I won't say problem because that's a bit of a negative word, but a common recurring theme maybe that blocks progress? Is there something that you find you come across time and time again and you think, oh yeah, that there's that again? Is there?
Yeah, that would be tax deadlines, because
yeah.
all throughout the year, and you know, these are people that work toward deadlines. And, you know, we'll want to do something and they're like, oh, I can't do that. The September 15th deadline's coming up. The October 15th deadline's coming up. And it's always a deadline. So it's hard to go and then stay at the same level. Like you're going to dip as they get busy. And I think that's the nature of accountants. But I think that's probably the hardest thing.
Do you think that the opportunities have changed now after COVID? Are things different there out there in your market space?
I think this is an amazing opportunity for accountant practices everywhere to reinvent themselves.
Right.
You know, we've been talking for years, way more years than I even know, that we need to be more advisory.
Yeah.
Yes, we can do the compliance stuff, but we need to be more advisory.
Yeah.
COVID has pushed us to be more advisory. Businesses all around the world are hurting. Don't get me wrong. Some are really excelling right now, depending what your business is. But a great number of them are really, really hurting, and they need that advice and counsel of their accountant. Yeah. So I think the opportunity out there is huge to reinvent. And I think as you look at that as well, people have also embraced technology. People are using Zoom who did not even have a Zoom account in January. You know, it's the way it is. Yeah. Right now, what are our customers saying? I want better data. I need to make better decisions. My cash flow right now is crazy. I have no idea how to predict how my future is going to go. You get data, like you can provide people, and through your system, they're getting it faster than if they gave somebody an Excel workbook and said, go calculate all these numbers. Okay, so maybe it would take somebody 10 hours in Excel. Change your pricing. You know what I mean? Because now you get this at a click of a button, but it's still worth that amount of money. And I think we accountants like to make decisions for their clients based on whether they think they have the money to spend or not.
Yeah.
We make those opportunities to them. We've sat there and said, oh, they're not going to spend on that. I've seen their financials. But that's not our job to make that call. Our job is to have that conversation, to tell them what's best for them, for their business and their financial position and their goals, and let the client make the goal. So when a competitor goes and brings it up to them, it's not the first time they're hearing it. No,
that's important. But going back to you then, what motivated you to actually start your business? Like you were working in a big CPA firm, you said, and now suddenly, well, not suddenly maybe, but now here you are working in your own business. So how was that move for you?
So I was actually in 3 different CPA firms. So I was in one for a very, very long time that I honestly thought was going to spend my entire career there.
Right.
When I was approached with this opportunity, and, you know, the entrepreneur in me, you know, they came to me and said, Katie, here's a blank piece of paper. Come build this within our organization. Wow. And I'm like, you're speaking my language. So I actually jumped and changed firms, which was a very hard decision for me. But then the hard part was I was there for 8 months, I think, and we were acquired by a $1 billion international firm. And so suddenly that blank sheet of paper I was given was taken away. And so, but even then I'm like, let's give this the benefit of the doubt. And then I remember a day that I helped my partners win $250,000 in new work. Wow. And we're celebrating because that's a big deal.
Yeah.
But the national firm didn't care because they just put together a $17 million proposal.
So yeah.
And for me, it was really like, where do I want to be? Like, I want to be somewhere where $250,000 moves the needle, where we celebrate that, where you can actually see how that makes an impact. Yeah. And I just think for me, the bigger entity was, I couldn't see the change that I like to see.
Yeah.
And I decided, and I went out and researched the heck out of it as I do, to make this jump, to figure out that, there are a number of firms out there that would celebrate. It's funny, I talked to firms, they're like, Katie, no, we'll take $250,000. Like, we'll celebrate. Like, that's a great thing for us.
Yeah.
And So yeah, there is a big enough market out there for people that, that could use some advice, and actually I could do something that could be a tremendous impact on another company.
And so you've been running your business for quite a while. And what are your future plans?
I think I'm at that stage where most business owners are, that they're like, hey, here's my business. Here's how I've been operating. I've got my talent that I use. I use a lot of independent contractors. And then I'm kind of like, well, what do I want to be when I grow up?
Yeah.
And you're really, you're trying to make that decision. And so, I think I definitely want to try to scale and to bring somebody in. The hard part about it is I need somebody who thinks like me.
Yeah.
Data analytic. I need, and there aren't a lot of those people. So I'm totally open for it when I find the right person who has my similar mindset. Because if I'm out there talking to a firm and something comes up and I need to send somebody in my to replace me, or to say, hey, Joe, Sally, Bob, whoever it is gonna run this for you. We need to have that synergy that
you need to know.
Very like Katie, you know what I mean? And we're not going in different directions. We're actually working together to help a client. So, so I think scaling's there. It's just, I got to find the right person.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's very important, isn't it? What are you excited about for the future?
So I'm excited about the opportunity that's out there. I love the innovation component of growth. So, growth is really marketing, it's business development, and then it's product management. And I love doing the innovation. I helped a client do packaging of their first ever packaging before, where we did levels and we did standard pricing, none of this bill by the hour stuff. And I believe COVID is making us move in that direction. And so the ability for me to do work that excites me, and, definitely makes an impact on an organization all at the same time. Like, to me, that's what I'm most excited about in the future.
What keeps you awake at night? What worries you, and how do you deal with that?
What keeps me up at night is the accountant mindset, and how that's a big roadblock. I'll be sitting there and it'll be 3:00 in the morning. I'm sitting there thinking, how do I get Joe to do this? Like, what do I have to say to him to get him to understand? And you would just try it. Oh my gosh, just try it and prove me right or wrong. Prove me wrong. I don't care. Take it as a challenge. So to me, that's really what it is, the potential is there, but can we get out of our own way to take advantage of it?
Finally, I'd like to ask you if there's any, like, a takeaway. What would you like to maybe leave the viewers with? Something that you would advise a practice to do today, for example, maybe something small that they could do that would move them in the right direction?
So I would say any practice, and I would say this probably extends to almost any business as well. You should be talking to every one of your prospects about their needs today.
Right.
If you talked to them 6 months ago, I guarantee what they're experiencing, what they need is different than what you thought they needed 6 months ago. And just have a conversation with them. However you're talking to your customers, have that same conversation with the prospect. Even if it doesn't translate to work today, people are going to remember when this COVID is said and done and we find our new normal, who was there for them.
Right.
And you want to be that person who was there for them, because you're going to get repaid in some way, I guarantee.
Okay, well, Katie, that's wonderful advice. And thank you so much. And it was really nice chatting to you. And I look forward to speaking to you again soon. And thanks for joining.
Thanks, Laura.
Thanks.